A local media outlet that's been delivering news to you for 144 years is making headlines of its own tonight. One of the candidates for San Diego mayor questions whether the Union Tribune is bringing you something else, its own agenda. Fox 5's John Langler is live with an interesting recording of a conversation between candidate Nathan Fletcher and the UT's editor. John, good evening.
Good evening, Jen. Fletcher's campaign released the recording on the heels of the UT endorsing Carl DeMaio rather prominently on Sunday for mayor. It seems to indicate, the recording does anyway, where the head of the newsroom wants the mayoral election to go. You may have never heard of Jeff Light before, but he's the vice president and editor of the San Diego Union Tribune. Essentially, he runs the newsroom. He did not return our call, but he said this to independent mayoral candidate Nathan Fletcher.
How can we get behind you, given that we've got a lot of Republican backing and Republican tradition?
It's a recording the Fletcher campaign made when he spoke with Light and the editorial board.
We, as an editorial board, do not want to see Bob Filner make it through to the general election. I think that there is a real danger in a Filner-DeMaio race at the general election, as the presidential election is going on, that Filner has a chance to win that. And that is something that we do not want to.
So what's the big deal? Tim Wolfmeyer is a journalism professor at San Diego State.
I still think it's a little unsettling and a little disappointing that, it's clear that the people in charge of the news columns are leaning one way so dramatically.
The newspaper has a history of favoring conservative candidates, so does its owner, Doug.
Once the information is out that you're for or against someone or something, that it's pretty hard, I think, for the public to accept that you are going to be fair and balanced.
The man who released the tape, Nathan Fletcher.
The Union Tribune made clear that they prefer to endorse partisans, and that's fine. It's their paper.
Mayoral candidate Carl DeMaio, who received the UT's endorsement Sunday, said, quote, "The endorsement from the UT San Diego is yet another sign of the growing bipartisan support our campaign has received." Bonnie Dumanis, also running for mayor, also released a statement. Quote, "It's immature and shows how Fletcher reacts when people don't agree with him." And again, we left a message for Jeff Light at the UT and with the news editor. He is the news editor, and we did not hear back. Late today, though, we did hear from Bob Filner. He is the Democrat running for mayor and who the UT says in this recording anyway they do not want to see in the mayoral office. Mr. Filner said he's not surprised. He's never had an endorsement from the UT, and it's just a sign that he is the person who's against the downtown establishment that voters should vote for. Back to you.
And John, just to clarify, so the issue is really because it was the news head or the news boss who sort of injected his opinion, not the editorial board, which, as you mentioned, has a history of sort of choosing a candidate.
Yeah, Jen, in this situation, in the meeting was Jeff Light and the editorial board, but the comments were from Mr. Light, and that is where some would say the issue is with regards to the difference between a news side of a newsroom and a newspaper and the editorial board, which, as you mentioned, is often expressing opinion. That's what editorial boards are for.
Right. All right. Very interesting for us. John Langler tonight in the newsroom. John, thanks. And if you want to get